Hey guys, it's Millie here, and in today's video we are going over how to use Dolby Atmos within your DAW using your mixer.
Please welcome Millie.
So before we get started, let's just go over real quick what is Dolby Atmos so we can understand it. I believe that Dolby Atmos is one of the greatest inventions that have come to the music world. Okay, what is Dolby Atmos? It is an advanced surround sound technology that creates this immersive 3D audio by placing sounds, objects, and I believe they're called beds, in a three-dimensional space in your ears. And where is Dolby Atmos used? Well, we already talked about music. It was, I believe, originally in theaters. It is in home theaters, streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, gaming, and it is useful because it makes audio feel more immersive, more realistic, so you feel like you are inside the sound instead of just hearing it from your speakers. And we are going to be using Dolby Atmos within Pro Tools. I believe they have their own Dolby Atmos renderer app you can get from them. However, I have the Pro Tools version, which includes it. I believe other DAWs like Logic and Presonus already has it built in, but other things like I believe Cubase, I don't know, but Ableton, you might have to purchase the renderer separate and integrate it within your DAW. So what you're going to need is you're going to need more than two speakers. Okay, we're talking about an immersive, a surround sound. So you're going to need at least, I believe you might need at least 3 to 4. I don't know. Dolby Atmos has so many configurations. However, I have the 5.1 system. I have two front left and right. I have a center speaker here. I have a sub speaker on the bottom, and then as you can see, I have two left and right surrounds. I also forgot to mention I did get a little makeover within the studio. I now am using the Behringer Compact, and as you can see back there, I have the Nord stage piano. Maybe I'll do a what's new in the stew video soon. Nevertheless, you are going to need the appropriate amount of speakers to send to that surround sound that you are looking for. And a good thing is I have all Presonus speakers, so you don't have to interchange them. You don't need anything special. Presonus is a good brand. And lastly, you're going to need some mixer or audio interface. It just needs to have the appropriate amount of speakers and configurations that you can send out specific outputs to. Okay, each speaker is going to have their own output within our mixer, within our interface. Starting off, we're going to head to our mixer or interface. I am going to flip to the phone here. So once you head to your mixer or interface, you're going to hit routing, and then you're going to make sure that you go to the output section. Okay, I'm going to go to the local out because that is the sound that I am sending out. That is what is connected to my speakers. And as you can see on my mixer here, I have my front, let's let it focus. I have my front two speakers that is going out of 1 and 2, main left, main right. I named them accordingly. And my center speaker is 3, that is mono, as well as my sub that is also mono, that's going out of 4. And then lastly, 5 and 6 is my surrounds. For the Behringer Compact, it only has 8 local outputs, but that's totally fine with me. The reason each speaker has its own output is because when you are dealing with this 3D space, we'll talk about it when we get to the renderer, each space has its own, space, okay, within the 3D realm. So if I send, let's say I send a sound over here, it's only gonna get this speaker. Or if I send it in the middle, it's only gonna get the middle speaker. Okay, so starting off in Pro Tools, that's what I'm using today. However, like I said, Logic, Studio One, other DAWs, they have this included. I'm gonna go to setup. Okay, I'm gonna go to my IO and then make sure, of course, it is all running through your mixer. And as you can see here, these are the regular outputs that I have. You see output 1 and 2, 3 and 4, blah blah blah. However, I added this one. This is output, and I named it 5.1. And as you can see, it has the 5.1 system speaker layout. Okay, so if you don't have this, what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit new path, and then you're going to select whatever configuration you have. If you don't know what it is, just look it up. I have the 5.1 system here. So, here, I'll just show you. Put 5.1 system, and I'll just call it 5.1 duplicate, and boom. So it does that, and as you can see, it has all of the speakers that it's supposed to have. And as you can see here, it's going to automatically choose in succession where it wants to send your Dolby Atmos sound, but make sure that it is wherever your speakers are routed to. Okay, so let's head back to the mixer so I can show you what I mean. All right, back on the iPhone here, you're going to need to hop back on your mixer, because just because you have sound coming from your DAW and going into your mixer or interface via USB, that doesn't mean you just automatically have it configured to those speakers. Okay, as we already talked about, these are my local outs. I have pretty much configured the source. However, that doesn't mean the sound is automatically going here. So in my mixer, I'm going to create channels, and as you see here, I have created these 4 channels, and they match my speakers: my front, left and right, my center speaker, my sub speaker, and my surrounds. So once you choose whatever channels or however many you have, what you're going to want to do is you're going to make sure that that sound is coming from whatever output is on your DAW. So for example, as you can see here, my output is going from left and right, that is 37 and 38. So if I go to my mixer, it should be coming from USB 37 and 38. And as you can see here, it is exactly 37 and 38. Just to show you a little more in depth, let's go to my USB audio. I'm sorry, I need to hit sources. As you can see here, I named it here as well. So 37 and 38 is my front, left, and right. My sub is 39. As you can see on my DAW, 39. 40 is the sub, and 41 and 42 is my surrounds. So I'm gonna go back to these channels just to show you. My front, left, and right is coming from the USB. My center, 39. My sub speaker, 40, and lastly, my surround is 41 and 42. Now, if you peeked over here, as you can see, I named my main sends. The Behringer Compact has 4 main outputs, and it was perfect for my system. So, as you can see, these are my surrounds, so they are going to my surrounds. Everything else is off. This is my sub. It is going to the sub speaker here. And then this is my center speaker, and you can pretty much catch on. It is the only one selected on at 0 decibels, and my upper speakers are selected as well. So now we routed everything correctly. So that means once we hop into the Dolby Atmos renderer, create our music, once we send it out of that specific area, it will go to these outputs that we have set up. Then it is going to go in our mixer via USB, go into those channels, and then distribute to our outputs. As far as the input goes, I just keep it regular. Okay, like I said, referencing my last video, everything is pretty normal here. Let's move on to the buses. The buses, pretty much referencing my last video. However, I do have some tips later in the video to make your mix more inclusive. And then we move on to the renderer, the Dolby Atmos renderer here. This is the still the IO section. So in the Dolby Atmos renderer, you are able to name and kind of group certain elements that you have within your mix. So for example, with Dolby Atmos, it has objects and beds, okay? Objects are the sound within your mix, within your music that you want to move around within the 3D space. And then the beds are fixed within the space, so they don't really move around. That's where you might want to put your drums there, and especially your bass. So back in the section here, as you see, I kind of grouped it: music, voices, and effects. These are, if it has music, that means it's like instrumental. It's easy for me to just, mute it in the renderer, or just, kind of visually see what is what. You see my voices are light purple. My music is kind of dark purple. And then I do have effects. That is this object here, okay? And then here is just the bed and my LFE. I am going to talk about everything in our next section. And down here, my monitor path is just my output 5.1, of course. My loudness renderer, just 5.1, because that's what I'm using. And then headphones, you're able to also utilize Dolby Atmos with headphones only. You're going to choose binaural because that gives you the 3D space, not just left and right stereo. So now only a couple more steps left. What I suggest is, again, I'm referencing my last video here. What I suggest is that you guys create a template, something easy for you. This is my template for all of my work. However, I cannot stress it enough. Just make sure that you have in your template, the most common themes within a song. As you can see here, I have lead instrument, keys, guitar, strings, woodwinds, atmosphere, drums, bass, effects, and then I have my vocals here. So all of the things that I just named are pretty much the common things within a song. Not every song I use those, however, it's just makes my everything so simple. I can just come and make music, just makes everything simple. So you saw those were all folders. So if I just open them up, as you can see, again, referencing my last video, I have the idea of whatever the folder is called. So lead instrument, I have lead synth, bells, and it like let's say I go to keys. I have synth keys, piano chords. The idea is that they are all keys. They are grouped together and they are all going into the folder. Okay, this is a routing folder, so it's essentially being used as a bus. I have my sound and then it is going to that folder and then it is going out to the Dolby Atmos renderer. So let me just show you what the renderer looks like. Of course, I don't remember the key command for this one. As you can see here, it is nice. It is just a space in the head where the head is in the middle of the space, okay? You can have a lot of objects and you can have up to 10 beds. Most of these objects are really, you know, for like film, of major film. However, of course, you're entitled, you can do whatever you want. I really only use up to, I believe, 27 and 28. These are just down here, etc. These are just activated just because you never know, but I just pretty much use about 30 objects, and that doesn't mean they move around. But within the renderer, this is what it looks like. As you can see here, my groups are up here, as I said. So like if I click music, all of the instrumentals will be muted, and effects, etc. And here is the kind of sound, so you can see your levels, and these are your views. You can just shoot to the top, to the rear. You'll be seeing the objects flying around in this, once we get to it, but make sure your headphone renderer is going to binaural, and your, let me click off please, and then make sure the loudness renderer is the 5.1. And these four here pretty much just dive more into the settings. Your custom re-renderers, you can down mix your song pretty much into Dolby Atmos stereo file, and as well as like a binaural headphone mix all at the same time, which I love about this. So yeah, you can mess around with that. IO setup, we already came from there. Trim and down mix, this is just your you know, some more intricate settings. Don't really mess with these don't really I don't really use this part. And then you have your groups here, which you can create on your own time. Lastly, at the very top, this is just muting your beds, objects, mute, rather than just your groups in case, you know, you left something out. And then monitoring, I keep it on 5.1. That's the system I'm using. If you only have headphones, that's totally fine. You can just use binaural. All right, so you created your tracks. There's only a few more steps left. You need to make it either a bed or an object. So again, these are my track groups. As you can see here, once you create your objects and your beds in your IO section, then you will have the option to, instead of having it just a bus or wherever you're sending out of, if I just click here, it will turn into an object, okay? And I must click this little arrow here to activate it. So let me just show you in the renderer here. So as you see here in the renderer, this is object 11 and 12. That is right here. So if I didn't have this on, if you were like, hey, why is my sound not coming out? I've done this time and time again. It is just because this this arrow is not selected. So boom, 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 okay? And then you're gonna do that for all of your tracks, okay? So let me just show you kind of what it looks like. I'm gonna press this little view button here, and this is what it looks like. So for example, these are your objects, so you are able to move them within the space. You can have them connected together. So in here, you can link them, for example, and again, these are your objects, so you can have them move from the left and right of the space however you want to, or you can unlink them, and you know, let's say you can have this one over here and this one at the top here, okay? You will be creative. You can do whatever you want, but that's, you know, what you can do. So pretty much everyone is the same. And to make mention, once you turn it into an object, it goes through the renderer now. So it doesn't go through wherever you already have it. So for example, I have it going through my output 5 and 6. But once I do this, then the 5 and 6 is no longer in use. It is now going through the renderer through how I set it up. So now just going through all of my tracks here, as you can see, guitar, that is object 15, 16, and so on and so forth. Make sure I hit this arrow here so it is activated for each one. And I'm gonna move down. I'm just gonna skip down here. As you can see, for the drums, it is going through the object. However, I also have it sending to the LFE. And my bass here also is going through the LFE, and it is not going through the object or the bed initially. So this is kind of the tip that I was talking about. What you can do is you can create a bus, and like, for example, I called it LFE. This is where all of my low frequency goes, and make sure it receives wherever you have your sound coming from. Make sure you name it. I've had times where I didn't name my buses at times. However, LFE mono, that is what it is. That is where the sound is coming from. That is what the bus is called. And then I have it being sent to a bed. Okay, I have it being sent to 1 through 6 LFE. You can choose wherever. However, of course, I'm going to choose the low frequency because that's where the low frequency is located. So I'm going to click this one here. It is pretty much just a send level, pretty much how much you're sending to that. I'll show you what everything looks like later. However, I'm just trying to show you that I have all of my low frequency range going through this bus. So my bass is not going to the renderer alone. All of my low frequency is going there. So the drums, pretty much just, you know, the boominess. I did put an EQ here. Let me show you. I did apply an EQ on here just to get, you know, 150K, just to get that boominess. I can change it whenever. You can change it whenever, but again, this is just a template. This is how I have it set up. Not everything is fixed. So you've probably seen here that I have a comment that says muted till ready for Atmos playback. That is because, you know, initially I have everything, you know, my bass, drums, all of that jazz going through my main speakers. That is just, you know, regular playback. But when I'm ready for my Atmos, my immersive audio, if I just had this selected, it would be the only form of Atmos content going to my speakers, while I already have, you know, my bass already being played through my speakers through regular playback. However, if you just make a Dolby Atmos template, then you won't really have to worry about this. And as you see, I gave it a little group just to show you things are tying together. And just to recap, just make sure that all of your tracks, whatever you're using, it is going to an object. Okay, you can have it mid, near, or far, or you can have it off for the moment, however you want it. Just make sure that it is clicked to object and it is greenlit for the renderer. And again, this is how you know it is activated. Now you could stop here, make your sounds, make your tracks, and then pretty much bounce your mix via Dolby Atmos. However, before we get to the export stage, let me just give you a few tips and tricks. For example, let's say you want to hear it through headphones, not just your speakers, because, you know, not everybody has a 5.1 system at their disposal. So you're going to create some form of a bus, and you are going to name that headphones, binaural, whatever, and just make sure the output is going through whatever stereo output you desire, you choose within your mixer, and make sure that the input is coming from the re-renderer. Okay, you're not just creating, it is not coming from a bus. You're not sending all your tracks to the bus. No, you're going to choose re-render, and you're going to choose binaural. You're not going to choose 2.0. Okay, you're going to choose binaural. This way you can hear your mix within headphones. This is how most people already listen to Dolby Atmos. I use Apple's AirPod Pro Maxes. Those things are amazing. I love Dolby Atmos. If a song is in Dolby Atmos, I am listening to it in Dolby Atmos. Okay, and the next step, we already talked about sending our low frequencies to a bus. You can, again, do whatever you want with that. Then you're going to want to create a loudness bus. This is just to measure our loudness. This is how we measure our LUFS. This is the loudness units full scale. It is just a measurement to see how actually loud a sound actually is to the human ear over time. And within streaming services, they do have specific numbers that you have to run by, like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. So just use this to normalize volume so songs can play at a consistent loudness. So I created a bus and I named it loudness. It stays muted. It really isn't going anywhere. Okay, the output is dead end. But you're going to want to choose re-renderers once you create it, and then choose loudness 5.1. And then you're going to want to put some plugin, whatever you have. luckily Pro Tools already has their own. It's called Pro Limiter, and it measures it for me. Okay, I don't have any settings on it. Okay, I just have it regular just so it can measure my peaks, my range, my integrated LUFS, and other stuff. And of course, it is always good to have a master track within your DAW. I have it. It is just called Master 5.1. Let me expand this for you. Here it is. Okay, you're gonna want to choose Render Out and 5.1. Okay, I don't really use it because, you know, I have all my mixer and all my other stuff. However, if I need to, it's here. Next tip, it is all about glue. So as you see, I have two buses here. I named one Atmos Verb, and this one is called Atmos Verb Stereo. Okay, this just creates a little reverb within the mix, but not too much where everything sounds so far away or whatever. You don't want that. However, I did get this from Dolby Atmos official YouTube page, so this helped me out a lot. So as you see here in all of my tracks, I have it being sent to the Atmos Verb and Atmos Verb Stereo. Okay, it is all going to it via 0 decibels. And if you see also here, my LFE is also going to it is only going to the Atmos Verb. This specific one is only going to the bed. Okay, let me just show you what I have here. It is only going to the bed at negative 40 decibels. Like I said, you don't want it to have too much of a space. But as I was doing the sound test, this was the sweet spot for me, especially with another reverb added on top. So this is just fine for me. This just creates the glue within the bed. You know, it's 3D audio, so you know it's gonna sound spacious and stuff like that. I am just using an Arturia reverb here. It's pretty nice. I change my settings every once in a while. You can do whatever reverb you want. Make sure the input is your bus. Okay, I did name it Atmos Verb 5.1. And then again, all of my tracks were being sent to another Atmos Verb. This one is stereo. This one is an object. It is object 75 and 76. Let me just pull this little guy here. It is going to my renderer at negative 35 decibels. Okay, again, this just creates glue in the mix, and I do keep it in the back of the space, you know, like the back of your head or whatever. That is because as I've been studying and listening to music in Dolby Atmos, they like to keep everything in front but have just a little bit of reverby sound that is from the main sound in the back. So that's just a nice little creative tool you can do. You can do whatever you want with that. You can keep it up here, whatever you want to do. And for this one, I did apply just a little EQ because it is in the back of the space. I don't want it to have unnecessary bass here. You can put an EQ on both. However, this one is kind of more controlled. You know, it does have the bass in the bed. But yeah, I do have it on far. And yeah. And now we have made it to the final stage. We are ready to either bounce our mix, our Dolby Atmos mix, or you can print it. And I'm going to show you how to do it both ways. First, I need to change my camera because the battery's gonna die. All right, we are back at it. So you're ready to bounce your mix. You just have all of your sound waves, your MIDI, whatever here. It is going through the object, through the renderer. You made all your changes, and now you're ready to down mix it. I'm going to show you a little bit how I do it after this process. I just want to quickly show you how to bounce your mix before we get there. Okay, we need content, so here we go. We're gonna do it together. All right, well, as you can see here, I do have 3 little loops here. Of course, I wanna create something my own self, but as you can see, this is laid out for you. This is where you create your music and whatnot. And then I send it to an object, okay? And let's look at it being played within the renderer. So as you can see, let's move around here. I have some stuff in the front. Well, pretty much everything is in the front except for my reverb, which is 75 and 76 in the back. Here are my levels, as you can see here. And then I'll move down to that loudness so I can show you, you know, it's measuring my loudness meters. And because I chose my loudness to be 5.1, it is going to include all of the speakers that I have, okay? And as you see, my reverbs here are working very hard. Okay, I'm gonna make this just a little more interesting. I'm gonna, you know, put the drums on the sides here. I'm gonna keep the acoustic guitars there. And then, you know what? No, I'm going to put the guitars in the center, really. Okay, I'm gonna put both of those in the center. And then I'm going to have my keys be just front, left, and right. So I just click that little thingy here, and boom, send it to the front. I can put it wherever I want, but this is how I have it. And just a quick reference, I'm gonna pull out the phone here, and I'm gonna show you all of my speakers being, you know, having the sends differently. So as you can see, my sub only gets it when the beat is coming in, or the drum beat. My center speaker, that's really getting the guitars and other stuff, okay? All right, so you're ready to bounce your mix. You're gonna just select the portion, the length of your song. I just have it, the short length. Let me fine tune this, boom. Okay, then you're going to head to bounce mix up here in file. And let's start off with the file name. I just have it, I had it as Dolby Atmos YouTube tutorial. The exact type is going to be Dolby Atmos. You can render it to stereo and whatnot later down here, but you can choose the export type, which is going to be Dolby Atmos. And this part here is just creating that master file. These are your total beds and objects active. I do have 16 active at the moment. You can kind of change your I/O setup if you need to after here, but I suggest that you should do all of that earlier. This I don't really mess with. This is really just for film and stuff. And then down here, create renderers. So file format is going to be interleaved unless you want all of those files on their own. In my re-renderers, I have a stereo full mix, which is going to be 2.0, binaural full mix, and a 5.1 full mix. All you got to do is pretty much configure and add them here yourself. But this is what I named it pretty much. Import re-renderers after bounce. That's if you want it imported into your session as soon as you bounce it. However, I kind of do things a little differently. Sometimes I might want this, sometimes I don't. You can choose it however you want, but that's what it does. This, you really don't mess with this here. Everything is pretty much set up because of however you have your playback engine. You know, my bit depth is 24. My sample rate is gonna be 48 kilohertz. I have it that way in my mixer. I have it that way in my playback engine. So I'm just gonna keep it like that. And then you choose your destination. Let me choose my destination real quick. And then lastly, same thing as other times you bounce in your mix. You can either do it offline or online mix, okay? And we're ready to bounce, so let's bounce. So once you bounce it, then as you can see here, I have all different types of files. I have the WAV file, I have the full mix 5.1 file, I have the binaural, and then I have the stereo full mix. And then if I play it back here, I believe I'm recording this section, you should be able to hear it back in the 5.1 system. And that is how you bounce your mix, but let's say you want to print your mix. For example, I have all of my sounds coming from my DAW, and that is coming to my mixer to be processed, and sometimes it goes back into the DAW to be reprocessed, or let's say just a little fine tuning to the print, whatever you need. Here it is at your disposal. So you're gonna create a bus, you're gonna make sure that the output is 5.1, and then you are, you know, just name it 5.1 print, and you wanna make sure that the input is coming from the re-renderer 5.1 full mix. Whatever configuration you have, make sure that is the re-renderer. You don't want to choose loudness, okay? That's for the measuring only. You want to choose full mix, okay? Then the output, I just have it going to my speakers for playback. I just named that 5.1. That is my output, 5.1 regular. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep it muted so it's not being played through my speakers doubled. I'm just going to hit record here and record via on my DAW, and let's play it. And what I love about this stereo print is that you can see all of the waveforms within each different element of the Dolby Atmos. It's just nice. So again, you can do whatever you want here with it. You can bounce this, of course, or export it as a file. But it's just here if you need it. Not everything that I do you have to do, but it's just a nice tip and trick that you can use. And I believe that is everything. Thank you guys for checking out this video. I am getting emails and comments being left for people suggesting things and questions. So you can always go ahead, check out my website. That is millihunteraudio.com. Email me, contact me, whatever you want, DM me. I'm all ears. But I really hope this helped you out. Thank you guys for checking out my video. Stay smooth. Have a good rest of your day. Peace. All right, we are done. 3, 2, and